And there was growing reaction tonight to the possibility of U.S. military action in Iran.
For more context about the U.S. response and protests, we spoke to our expert on Middle East politics, Benjamin Rad. Professor Rad, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me back.
After weeks of anti-government protests in Iran and a blackout when it comes to information coming out of the country, we're finally starting to learn some details on the number of Iranians who have been killed in a crackdown on the demonstrators. What are you hearing?
Well, the information is a trickle, and what makes it more challenging is that there's a lot of misinformation being spread online and social media, in large part because of the information blackout that the country has imposed on its citizens. So the numbers are anywhere from 500 up to 2,000, depending on which source we look at. And a lot is sort of difficult to tell because the country is literally and technologically in the dark right now. So it makes any information coming out limited and really suspect.
You know, the videos, the few that we have seen coming out, they're massive in size, the groups of people that are protesting in the streets. We've seen uprisings like this before, Professor, most recently in 2022, 2023. Does this moment, though, feel different? Could we actually see a regime change happening in Iran?
So does it feel different? Yes, it feels different because we're now seeing protests that are cutting across socioeconomic lines, class divisions, urban areas out in the countryside, in the towns and villages as well. We're seeing grievances that go beyond just about individual freedoms. There's economic grievances. There's grievances centered around the country not meeting the social and welfare needs of the people. So all of these issues are now coming to a head, and I think that's what's making this very unique. We also have a different international climate, one where Iran has been substantially weakened in large part because of the operations of last year, the 12-day war with the United States and Israel, the weakening of its proxy groups, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the loss of Syria as an ally nearby. All of these have led Iran into a very weak position. And given its failure to make a deal with President Trump in the last few months on the nuclear enrichment issue, have left it with very little leverage and credibility with its own people. That's what makes it different.
And yeah, Professor, to your point, President Trump now threatening to attack Iran if the government kills protesters. Given what we just saw the U.S. do in Venezuela, could we really be looking at an attack on Iran? And what would that mean for our adversaries, Russia, China, and other U.S. adversaries? We're really watching this very closely.
So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some U.S. action taken. I don't assume it to be kinetic in nature, meaning I don't think it'll be military. For that to happen, first of all, the U.S. would need to have carrier strike groups in the Mediterranean or in the Gulf nearby. It doesn't at the moment, and it can't get any there until about next week. So those are needed for support reasons. But what I can imagine the Trump team doing is assisting with, let's say, cyber techniques, sabotaging the regime's ability or impeding the regime's ability to cut off internet access, providing Starlink receivers and other means for the people to get communications in and out of the country and within the country, and also helping to weaken the infrastructure and the apparatus of the regime, again, through more economic measures, more targeted measures, and clandestine measures that we can't really even think of right now.
Iranian officials say American military and commercial bases could be treated as targets in retaliation to any U.S. action. How real is a threat like that?
Very real. I mean, Iran has demonstrated in the past that it will actively, if not symbolically, target U.S. installations and assets. We've seen them. We saw them do that last summer. We've seen them do that in the past. They still have a network of proxies and other militia groups, especially in Iraq, that they can utilize and call upon in times like this. However, these will be symbolic, and they will really not have any effect in changing the calculus. The regime has lost its credibility with regards to its people. It's shown that it cannot defend the country against threats from the outside, nor can it provide the people within the country with their basic living needs and economic needs. So again, all of this would be symbolic. It is now really on a death watch, if you will. The clock is ticking for the survival of the regime. It's just a matter of when now, no longer if.
Wow. All right, Professor Rad, more to come on this, obviously. Thank you for your time as always.
Thank you.